All right, folks, this is session number 3 of Civics 101 for cycle 49, the best cycle of Icy Stars, the fall of 2021. I'm Tom Tressa, your friendly host and guide for our experience. So we are in the land of nonprofits. And in our first 2 sessions, we went over some of the basics of the nonprofit world. And I'm wondering what has stuck with you, any points or things that you might have talked about or reflected upon from the first 2 sessions.
I
Go ahead,
can
jump
go.
in.
I think something important. Thank you, Jordan. I think something important that we discussed during our last session was the importance of a clear and concise mission statement for a not-for-profit.
Yes, sir. And what do you recall from that discussion?
Well, I recall that perhaps Icy Star's mission statement needs a bit of updating because it was not the most precise. And if I remember correctly, it actually sort of alienated people older than like young adults, right? Because if I remember correctly, in the mission statement for Icy Stars, it said something about helping young adults find economic freedom or something like that.
Yeah.
And Icy Stars has a lot of people who would not necessarily count as young adults, and maybe that wording should be changed.
So that was a good catch. And it puts us in mind that a mission statement is somewhat of a living thing that should be looked at periodically. I mean, it may have been awesome back in the day, but the world changes obviously, and the organization changes to try to be true to its what it's trying to achieve. And so the mission statement might need retooling. But what about the mission statement, in itself? What does that do for you? What does it help you understand?
I think that it's just as much for the people behind the nonprofit as it is for the target. Because when you clearly define your mission statement, you not only let the world know, specifically, whoever it is you're targeting, this is how we're going to help you. But being able to define that for yourself also helps you like maintain focus.
Ooh. Oh, yes, sir. I love the way you put that. Maintain focus, sir. This idea that so sometimes you hear the expression, the North Star, right? So when you hear that, someone says, "You're my North Star," or "Thou shalt not kill. That's my North Star." When you hear that kind of phrase, it usually means it's some kind of bedrock guiding principle, right? That hangs above over everything. And when you're in doubt, you look up to the North Star to get your orientation, to make sure you're on the right path. You know what I mean? And the mission statement is that for our nonprofits. And yes, it does focus internally and externally. It's the reason why people give money. It's the reason why people donate their time and treasure. But it's also the reason why you yourselves engage and choose to participate. Excellent. All right, we're gonna cover a little bit of the same ground right now as we get deeper into this mission thing. So we remind you that the nonprofits exist to serve and deliver this mission, this service, this solution, if you will, this repair job, the meal of service that is being called for. Is to serve a mission that responds to an opportunity that has not been addressed. Remember, we said the business community is not doing this work because there's no profit in it. That's not what a business is set up for. And the government might do something like this, but it isn't. So there's a hole, there's a gap, there's what we call an unmet need. And America is set up with this critter called nonprofits that allows people to come together with no one's, you don't need anyone's permission. Did Sandy get anyone's permission to start IC Stars? No, she had the vision with her colleagues and said, we see the need here. And if we just sit back on our butts waiting for it to get filled, you know what? We'll still be waiting. So why don't we do something about it? And so she made that case. She developed her argument and started recruiting people to her cause. So that means that this nonprofit critter is serving people that is not being served by those first two sectors. And it's the mission which provides the meaning and direction for the organization, as well as setting up and lifting up its uniqueness, or what we might call the niche of this organization. And you can see the reason that one follows the other. If there are 20 groups doing training like IC Stars, and then you wouldn't need IC Stars. It'd be too crowded a marketplace, right? But because back in the day, there was nobody doing this work, and it still remains, I believe, an underpopulated field, that shows the uniqueness of this, which also, I guess you could say, also points out to the fact that the first two sectors haven't been doing their jobs either, have they? I mean, look at it this way. If the business world had been about recruiting and training people of color to be in tech, Sandy would be out of business. She could say, hey, we don't need IC Stars, or we can change our purpose and do something else. But guess what? The corporate world is still slow to respond. And I think if you look at the numbers of the number of people of color in the STEM professions who have serious positions inside technology, whether it's the coding world, like the Microsofts of the world, or the e-commerce space like the Amazons of the world, or what have you, you're going to still find people like yourselves are vastly underrepresented. So this is why we have nonprofits. Now let's take a look at the mission statements of some very well-known for-profits. Apple says to challenge the status quo, to think differently. There's nothing in that word about selling you computers. There's nothing in that about selling you the new iPhone 27. Coca-Cola, to refresh the world and inspire moments of optimism and happiness. Facebook, which has been coming under some criticism, hasn't it? To give people the power to build community so we can bring the world closer together. That actually takes on a bit of irony, doesn't it? Given what we know about Facebook. Microsoft, to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And I suppose when we set up our colony on the moon, they'll have to amend that. It'll be to empower everybody in the solar system. Harley Davis. Now there's an interesting one. They make motorcycles, don't they? To fulfill the dreams of personal all-American freedom. I bet
Are you
didn't see
reading
that
this
one
from
coming.
somewhere?
Say what?
Are we all seeing what you're reading, or are you, that's your own?
Oh, no. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Let me try that again. How's that?
Oh, there it
There
goes.
it is. Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so don't let me, please do jump in. I'm juggling a lot of balls here, so thank you. Yeah, so there are the mission statements of some of the famous companies that you might deal with every day. Disney, to create happiness for people of all ages, everywhere. And Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And Starbucks, to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person and one cup at a time. And Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And you can reflect on those statements and wonder, do they make sense? Is it a bunch of hype, or are they actually doing exactly what they say they're doing? Does it inspire you? Does it focus you? Would you know what you're about if you're working for one of these companies and you were asked, like, what's the purpose of Facebook again? And you'd be able to reply. So these are some very well-known for-profit companies. But let's take a look at some exemplary nonprofits. So here are some mission statements that we've called from the internet. And I invite you to meditate on these and see what you like about them. Let's just have you guys read them out loud, and I will just call on you, unmute, and just start reading them. Marcos, read number 1. Oh, you have to unmute.
My bad. The Reading Holiday Project uses child-centered, culturally responsive, and high-impact strategies to close the reading achievement gap for young Black children.
Cool. Miriam, number 2.
Okay. Digitally Undivided uses innovation to create system change by catalyzing economic growth for Black and Latinx communities through women entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Ian, number 3.
Girl Trek's mission is to pioneer a health movement for African American women and girls grounded in civil rights history and principles through walking campaigns, community leadership, and health advocacy.
Gabriella, number 4, please.
Sisters Song mission is to build an effective network of individuals and organizations to improve institutional policies and systems that impact and the reproductive lives of marginalized communities.
Great. Yed, number 5.
The Ella Baker Center for Human Rights organizes with Black, Brown, and low-income people to shift resources away from prison and punishment and toward opportunities that makes our commitments safe, healthy, and strong.
Great. Jordan, number 6.
Street Code Academy empowers communities of color with the skills, mindsets, and networks to use tech and innovation to fulfill their full potential.
Ooh, who does that sound like? Emmanuel, number 7.
Think of Us as a systems change nonprofit that focuses on leveraging technology to upgrade the foster care system and its programs for better life outcomes for its youths.
Great. Leandro, number 8.
Sister Love Incorporated is on a mission to eradicate the adverse impact of HIV/AIDS and other reproductive justice health challenges impacting women and their families through education, prevention, support, and human rights advocacy in the United States and around the world.
Awesome. And Godfrey, number 9.
The Harlem Academy drives equity of opportunity for promising students, guiding them to strive at the highest academic levels and one day make a mark on the world.
Great. Thank you. So what do you notice? Do you like these statements? What do you notice about them? How do they stand with you?
I feel that it really emphasizes that they're mission driven, that their goal is to make the world a better place more than just like make easier stuff, I don't know how to explain it, but I can definitely like see the passion in this.
Okay, that's important. The passion comes out to you, the sense of urgency. I think that's a great observation. I'll put that in the chat. So non-profit examples, and it was urgency, passion. What else came out for you from hearing your comrades read these statements?
It's all very focused. Like every single nonprofit is very focused. It's very specific. You can see which groups of people they'll be helping just by reading the mission statement. There's no confusion about it. We are helping Black and Latinx communities. We are helping African American women. We are helping Black and Brown women. We are helping. It's very specific.
What and where? So I think what you're saying is it's unambiguous who they're serving, right? Or who they're targeting, if you will, who their customers might be.
Yes.
And the what, like, you know, what are we doing with these people? With these?
Yeah, they're also saying what they're gonna help them with. Like, for example, on the Sisters Love Inc., they're having HIV and AIDS tests and education, and just giving them, helping them with skill sets in different areas. So
Right. So it's a bit of what's the problem? You know, what are we addressing? And a little bit of the what we're going to do with them. Right. So they're not telling you exactly like we're going to have health checkups every third Wednesday, and we're going to have a walk-in clinic, and you're going to get your blood pressure. You know, they don't go down to the details. The mission statement doesn't do that, right? But it sets you up. It sets up the premise for what will follow. So in the example of Sister Love, you can imagine workshops to describe the condition, like, you know, self-checkups. Maybe there's a clinic. Maybe they put a nurse on a bus and they go around the community. Or maybe there's a private times where you can walk into their facility in privacy and get checked up. You know, you can imagine all kinds of things. You can imagine maybe flyers or things like, you know, safe sex practices, maybe. Could you imagine condom distribution possibly, or some other kinds of things having to do with what you might call safe sex, or you know what I'm saying? Healthy practices, let's call them healthy practices.
Yeah.
If people didn't know how to keep themselves healthy. So all that makes sense and follows from this mission, right? Excellent. And so we remind you that the mission statement is short and punchy. So these are not long, right? These are not, it doesn't take, but I don't even, maybe a minute and a half tops to get it, right? So it's short, punchy. I will say short, punchy. No jargon, please. Now, some of them had a little more jargon than others. And we caution you against no vague statements like empowerment or, you know, self-esteem or other social service terms. You want to be as specific as possible, and we want it to be somewhat emotional or impactful and somewhat descriptive. So that's a lot, and you can imagine that when these statements were crafted, they weren't just shooting from the hip. These were crafted. You know, they took some time, and they were probably tested inside the organization. You know what I mean, with their boards, and they would maybe live with them for a little while. You know what I'm saying, to see if it sat well. So these statements come with a bit of work. Okay, now we're going to transition into thinking about y'all's nonprofit. So hopefully you've had a chance to meditate on your issue and started to think a little bit about what we're going to ask of you in creating your own nonprofit. And what we're going to ask you to do now, we're going to send you into small groups, and you're going to be using the Zoom, the Jamboards. We're going to ask you to create a little sticky notes with your some information on that sticky note. So I'm going to put the link into the chat right now. Okay, so you should have this on your screen right now. in a minute when we send you into small groups. But you're going to create a sticky note on this page, and you'll put your name like I did with mine. You see the example in yellow. I named my organization called the Civic Lab. If you have a name for your organization, that's fine. You know, you could have a sketch of a name, or it could be a placeholder name. You don't have to have 100% certainty about what you want to call your nonprofit right now. And some sentence fragment about what it is that you're going to do. What is the purpose of this nonprofit? Where it's going to be. So you see in the sticky note, it's in Chicago. And then a couple of potential board members. I think everyone got the gist of it. The Jamboard was filling up nicely. Thank you very much for jumping into the assignment. And as you look at your colleagues' ideas, you know, again, these are just sketches. These are not the full mission statements. You know, you're gonna deliver that in your final presentation. But you can start to see the sketch of the idea, can't you? Of the issue that your colleagues are focusing on, and where your mind went to, like, what is the solution? What should we offer? What should we do? And then where shall we do it? And then I asked you to think about board members, and you're very creative. I saw Selma Hayek in there somewhere. Yeah, that's the kind of thinking you need to do. Who will bring you the right skills and assets to your organization to deliver your dream? Very well done. Now, in the final presentation on November 22nd, basically what you're going to do is just take this idea that you've sketched here today on your sticky note and just going to bring it to life as we asked for in the instructions. So you'll have a name, so you'll settle on a name. You'll settle on a neighborhood. So we want something like, you know, the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago, the west side of Houston, Texas, or the entire state of Illinois shall be the service area. So that's the kind of location we want. You're gonna talk about the problem that you're trying to solve. Remember, we're asking for those slides, those data graphs or evidence, and then some notion of what you're going to do. Now, these what we would call the program of the organization. So in the case of IC Stars, the program is the internship program that you're involved in. And that's shorthand for a lot, because they had to hire instructors, they had to create curriculum, right? They had to hire me, they had to hire the staff. Nisani is a supervisor, so she's kind of in charge of all the training. Like, you know, are we training on Excel today, or are we going to learn SQL? You know, what are we going to do over the 4 months? That's the stuff that's happening, but the specifics. But the general gist of the program is we shall create a 4-month training program for interns so they can ... So that's the kind of detail we're going to ask you for your final solution. You're going to say things like, if we are teaching economic literacy in the Chatham neighborhood of Chicago, we're going to focus on young people under 20, and the program will be, we're going to open up a bank, and we're going to have the bank staffed by teenagers, and we'll invite people to open up their accounts, and that's how we're going to teach literacy, financial literacy, and get people to save their money. So now you've explained it, like, you know, in about 3 sentences, right? That's what we want. And again, the sky's the limit. And then your 5 board members, okay? Are there any questions about what is expected of you for the final assignment?
No.
I think everybody's good. Cool. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for that. Remember, if you have any questions at any time, you shoot me an email. I think you all have my email, right? So there's no such thing as a bad question. It's better to err on the side of oh, someone's got their hand up. Go ahead.
Did you specify how many slides there were or no?
No, but it's going to be certainly under 10, in that no more, 1 or 2 slides. Like,
One or
like
two slides?
like when we say you're setting up the problem, you could be creative. You could have a couple of slides with some images, right? Maybe some data porn before you get to the solution. So you can be a little creative, but no more than 10. And if there's any questions about Slideshare, that's the important detail. You're going to open up a free account at Slideshare and then upload your presentation to Slideshare. Be sure to set the settings for that allows for download. So that's a privacy setting. You have to allow me to download your presentation. And then you just email me the URL. That's what you're going to do in a couple of weeks. All right. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load all those slides, all those presentations into our space. And it'll be very easy to just go from one intern to another without any fumbling. And what will happen is I will run the slideshow and you'll just simply say, next slide, please. Okay. And remember, go ahead, Jose.
And it's a must. What if for some reason, God forbid, I go to slideshare.com and then I can't seem to work the site? What happens then? Do I just use regular slides or? No,
you're gonna upload you're gonna create your presentation in PowerPoint and upload it to Slideshare. So if anybody has any trouble with Slideshare, I would check with your friends first, because there's usually a few people that already have Slideshare. They're familiar with it and it's not a big deal. And there's usually a few interns that are a little unsure, but don't wait until the 22nd. Solve it before the 22nd amongst yourselves. So that means you have to be on the lookout for each other. And if anybody is really super excellent at this, you can volunteer to be a coach. And if, for some reason, if someone's having some trouble, check in with your colleagues, because there's usually 2 or 3 people that just, for whatever reason, they've done it before. It's no big deal. And it's usually for 1 or 2 people, it's a little tricky.
I got a question, Tom. I do understand that I kind of think that the whole nonprofit thing is supposed to be unique, right?
Yes.
Like it has to have a unique mission statement.
Yes.
But at the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, if a nonprofit idea is an umbrella, can your idea be underneath the umbrella, since some nonprofit do just about the same thing?
Well, sometimes the uniqueness of the nonprofit is because it's located someplace where there is no service. So if Emmanuel, say you were really passionate about literacy and you wanted to teach children under 12 to read, there's nothing particularly unique about that, right? I mean, there's many literacy programs, but if you say I'm going to do it in Botswana or the Gulf Coast of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, or some place that is meaningful to you, but you know that there is no such program there, that solves the problem. So so yes, thank you for that. Is that helpful? Okay, cool. All right. Again, we're going to meet again next week when we're going to get deeper into fundraising, and we're going to interview one of your board members. But again, if you've got questions, that's fine. You can ask them then or email me in between times. All right, now we're going to switch gears and we're going to ask you, what does a great leader look like? So in the chat, please go ahead and type in the name of a leader. What leader? Inspiring leaders. So go ahead, type in the chat the name of someone. Doesn't have to be alive, could be someone who's no longer with us, but Martin Luther King, right? That's a good one. So put into chat names of people, Buddha, Yeah. Leaders from different walks of life, who are inspiring to you and that you would call a leader. Jesus Christ, of course, one of the greatest. Nelson Mandela. Nell Tyson.
No, I butchered his name. Is Nell Degrees
Oh,
Tyson.
I know. Oh, I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, I butchered his name. Sorry.
I think he's Neil. I think he's Neil. I think
Yeah,
he's
Neil.
right. I know who you mean. He's like a scientist. Kobe Bryant, Gandhi. Excellent. Yes. Yeah, these are great names. Stan Stan Lee. Oh, my man from Marvel Comics. Barack Obama. Yes, our first Black president. A huge leader in this state, Eleanor Roosevelt. Often overlooked as a leader. Yeah, sort of a great female, a leader in America, and done a lot of things. She didn't get a lot of recognition, because she was married to such a famous person, but her story is quite fascinating. Yes, all right, these are all good. So, and in your selections, you've already kind of Huey Newton. Yeah. Awesome. Oprah. So not only Oprah is a leader, but she's also obviously a successful business person, but she was a pioneer in broadcast, in the entertainment industry, and then into publishing and broadcasting and movies and television and on and on. Someone said me, not me, you me. You me. Excellent. All right. We're going to listen to this gentleman right here, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So let's see, make sure that can you see him on screen? Okay. Can you hear this?
What, in your opinion, makes
Yes.
a good leader? What qualities?
Yes. It's a question that we've had to deal with quite a bit, looking at some of the leaders we have had who have sometimes led their countries into disastrous situations. I think ultimately you want a leader who is also a servant. I mean, really, the leader is a leader because he is a servant. I mean, you look at some of the greatest leaders. Nelson Mandela is someone who is not in it for his own aggrandizement. He leads on behalf of, for the sake of. That is one. And it almost always is that the great leader will show just how he is or she is a leader for the sake of the land by suffering.
A person who is a servant as well. That is
Yeah.
that is the ultimate.
For me, yes, that you are not one who is seeking self-glorification, who wants to feather his nest. Just say at I mean, you can look at Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi, the Dalai Lama. You'll see that a great characteristic is they are doing something, sacrificial in a way for the sake of those they are serving, and suffering. Well, the Dalai Lama has been in exile for 50 years. Nelson Mandela was in jail. Mother Teresa lives with the poor. She lived with the poor. Mahatma Gandhi, you could go on. Martin Luther King. And then the great leader is someone who is inspiring, inspires his followers, her followers. Aung San Suu Kyi. I mean, she said nothing very much for 11 years, and yet she remains the only real leader in Burma. Why? That somehow the leader encapsulates and somehow represents the best that is in the people, the aspirations of the people, and yes, it is someone who can inspire.
Yes, so I think that says it very well from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a Nobel Prize winner. The leader encapsulates or represents the best in and the aspirations of the people. The servant leader is not in it for self-aggrandizement, or as he said, to feather his nest, for profits or for glory, though, of course, people obviously are lifted up and admired. But that's not why we lead. There's a saying that we often refer to in this work, and that is, a servant leader aspires, desires to serve. That your heart is first in the work. You first desire to serve, and then you aspire to lead, and not the other way around. So it's not about people lording it over. It's not about people bossing people around, making them feel small so that you can get off on your power. No, the idea is we get into this work because we have the desire in our hearts first to serve. And you don't really have any thoughts of leading at all necessarily. You just want to roll up your sleeves and get something done. And that's what makes you the leader, right? It's after you start working in this way that Desmond Tutu is discussing, is only then can you be seen as a servant leader. Now, this is, of course, different from many models that you might have come across. So, for example, in the military, you're a leader because of your what? What do you get when you're in the military?
Your rank.
Yes, right. So I started out as a private and I do my job and I get promoted. I'm a sergeant. Can I boss the lieutenant? No. Can the lieutenant boss the general? No. So in the military and many other places, your rank is fixed in that way. And you're either promoted into it or you have it assigned in some way. And that tells you pretty much where you stand in the organization. But servant leadership isn't like that. One of the things that we say about servant leadership is that the people choose you in a way because they choose to be led by you, if you think of it that way. So in the case of Martin Luther King, he started out as a preacher. He became an organizer with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He became a spokesperson. His merit was recognized by his peers early on and was given leadership position inside the civil rights movement. But he wasn't like elected, you know what I'm saying? He didn't apply for the job. He was elevated by his peers. And then after he started being in public and speaking and writing and working and marching, more and more people saw him and accepted him, embraced him as a leader, if you follow me. And you can think about that process with the names that you put into chat. If you think about how you encountered those people, whether by reading them or seeing them on TV or encountering them in something like in a class, or the ways that you learned about those individuals that you put into chat, you can think about yourself like, well, when did I say to myself that person's a leader? And you can think about your own internal process of like, well, I learned about this person. I checked them out. I read something about their teachings or whatever, and it's not, and you're judging them, aren't you? You're thinking like, you're weighing them like, is this BS or is this speaking to me? Oh, you know what? This is speaking to me. I now put down Huey Newton as a leader. I checked him out, if you want to think of it that way. Now, this discipline of servant leader has a few aspects that I want to briefly touch on. We say there are 7 pillars, and I'll put those into the chat. These are the 7 pillars of servant leadership. You are a person of character. You are a person who puts people first. You are a skilled communicator. And that's maybe interesting to you to show up on a list like this, but if you think about it, I really can't lead if I'm mute, or if I can't express myself. I may not be a speaking person, but I can communicate by writing or by my actions, if you want to put it that way. But somehow you're going to have to communicate your visions and your thoughts. You have foresight, which means you can think into the future. You can see a better future. You can imagine a better future and give life to it. Remember what the Archbishop said, you have to inspire. Well, what do you inspire me with? You're not inspiring me with something boring. You got to inspire me with something uplifting, right? Something exciting, gets my blood pulsing, right? Remember, Martin Luther King didn't have a plan. He had a dream, right? He had a dream, and the way he spoke that dream was powerful and evocative, and he was a masterful speaker and communicator, orator. You're a compassionate collaborator, which means you know how to make teams work. So I know that in the IC Stars world, teamwork is critical, isn't it? Right. And if you are a, shall we say, a stubborn person, or a kind of a prima donna, or you come to these meetings ill-prepared, you're not a good teammate, right? And so you've had some experience, I'm sure, by now with teams that are really well functioning and they really get shit done. And you probably had some experience with teams that kind of limped along a little bit, and maybe didn't hit all the nails on their head like they were supposed to. And you can examine your own behavior inside teams. And you can ask yourself, did I come to the meeting prepared, or was I hungover? Did I bring my notebooks and all my crap, my stuff that I was supposed to bring, or am I showing up like I don't know what I'm even here for? Remind me, what are we talking about at this meeting? That's not a good teammate, right? Or are you the kind of person who shows up at the team over-prepared, like you've read everything, you did more than you're supposed to do, and you've got your pad for yourself, and you've got an extra pad for somebody else. You got your pen, but you also brought a couple of extra pens in case one of your colleagues forgot theirs. You know what I'm saying? So examine your own behavior inside teams. And if you're a team leader, how do you make that team fly? If you're like the chair of the meeting, is everyone participating? Is someone quiet and leaning back and kind of had a bad day, or they're shy? But you're the leader of this particular team. Your job is to make sure everybody is participating. And maybe some people they have trouble doing that. So you get tasked with being the team leader and you don't feel quite prepared. You're like, how do I do that? How do I Jose hasn't said anything in this meeting. How do I get Jose to speak? But I don't want to embarrass Jose. So how do I do that? So these are skills that you can learn in these teams. And this is a great place to learn these things. And in so far as your teammates are going, everyone is going to be accepting and forgiving of you, right? So if you stumble and you make a mistake, this is the place to do it and get some coaching. So if Jordan is really a great speaker and everyone defers to Jordan because he's smart and funny, he's really on the ball, Jordan may say to himself, you know what, I bet I should step back maybe and let Marcos talk, because it comes easy to Jordan. Jordan is very witty, but Marcos was a little hesitant, for whatever. So Jordan says, hey, Marcos, brother, you haven't said anything. What do you got to say about all this? it kind of put Marcos on the spot a little bit in the meeting setting, but it's done out of love and respect. You know what I'm saying? To get this team to make sure everybody is contributing. I believe in you, Marcos. Excellent. All right. That's part of what we mean by a compassionate collaborator, you know, to be in these team settings, both as the leader of the team or as a member of the team. You both have important roles to play. And believe me, if you cannot make teams work, then you're not going to succeed in your job, whatever when you go on to the workplace, because most of the things that get done, you know, in the workplace these days are in teams. And it may be that you have a great team today, you know, you're doing a project, but then you all go your separate ways and a new team is formed, you know, with a different people, and you go, oh my God, I got to start all over again. So this is something that's just going to keep being in your world, right? Being in teams. A systems thinker, meaning you've got the big picture. You're able to step back and see a lot of the piece parts. That's often difficult for younger people starting in business, starting in work. And finally, you lead with moral authority. So a servant leader is someone, as I said, who is granted the position of leadership by their peers. So it's possible for you to be a team member, not be the actual chair of the team or the captain of the team, but still exert leadership through your behavior. And that's because people recognize you as such and will defer to you, or will ask your opinion, or will check in with you and be willing to be coached and guided by you, regardless of where you sit on the organizational structure. That's something that's a little different about this model of leadership, but it requires that the followers are open to being led, so that you could be meeting with people for the first time and you're not sure who the leader is. You know, your first meeting for the first time, and you have to sort of check people out and say, well, who's really capable? And oh, it looks like Miriam. Well, what do you think, Miriam? You want to lead this particular project? And let's see what happens. So that's a little bit about what servant leadership is all about. Now, I think we have some time. So here's what we're going to do in small groups. We're going to create 4 breakout sessions, four teams. And team 1 is going to look at what's a person of character look like. So I'll put this into the chat right here. Team 2 is going to look at what is a skilled communicator. 3, what is foresight? And 4 is leads with moral authority. And here's what you're going to do. I'm going to put up another Zoom link, a Jamboard link, and you're going to give me evidence. So in other words, team 1, you're going to tell me, what does a person of character have to do to be called a person of character? Oh, Tom is a person of character because he what? Did what? Does what? Team 2, you could say, what is a skilled communicator? Oh, I know a skilled communicator when I see one because she does what? Follow? Team 3, what is foresight? Someone has foresight when they do this, when they show up as this. And team 4, you're going to give us a few behavioral prompts for what does moral authority look like. Okay, here we go. All right, we're back. Yeah, I threw you guys into that one really fast, but you got it. Appreciate that. So notice what we were looking for were the behaviors for these specific areas. And that's what we were looking for. And I think each group found their way. You put up individual people as well. That was like extra gravy. So this area of servant leadership is something that I really believe in, and I think is what is practiced at IC Stars. If you think of your leadership there, and I think maybe you'll see them in a new light. But we only have a few more minutes left. Any comments that anyone wants to make about this exercise, or what we rushed through it? But any thoughts from you?
Yes. I wanted to say, Miriam, thank you for having that conversation with us. I don't know if it cut off while we were on that transition and back into this one. And going back to the actual task, what was the question again?
Just any thoughts from this exercise, thinking about what a leader is?
I think the leader that I chose will have to be Elon Musk. And hear me out, please. He's doing things that our forefathers did, and he's by discovering new ways of doing things and going into new territory, just like Columbus did. Even though it wasn't already, even though it was already discovered by prior cultures, he's doing what needs to be done to get human race there. It might not look pretty, it might not sound pretty, but different people have different personalities. So maybe he fired a guy because he's not doing this or that, even though it's required of him. He has to meet this deadline for the greater cause, and it might look like a bogus move, but he has to fire people to put other people in place that will follow when it's to get done.
I would say, Jose, that Elon Musk is definitely a visionary leader, and through his planning of SpaceX and Telsa is taking America and the world into some new places. Has there been someone who built cars in the past? Yes, but has there been someone building electric cars on the level of what he's talking about? And we've gone into space, but has it been done by a private company? No. So I would say he is one of our major visionary leaders for sure. Okay, well, just things for you guys to just think about as you look at yourselves as a servant leader. Here are some tips. Know yourself, master yourself, and expand yourself. Know yourself, master yourself, and expand. So you're looking inward, and then you're building on that as a leadership command for yourself going forward. Also, to get some of that vision stuff, you have to know the relevant history, know the context, and know the trends. So you're kind of always learning, right? You're always learning. I think that's one of the takeaways for the kinds of leadership that we need. In order to have a vision, you've got to understand where we are today. You have to know other people. You have to be able to motivate and organize them. And again, it's easy to say, a little harder to do in practice. But that's what I See Stars is for. So you may want to seek out leadership opportunities. So you may be someone who is maybe a little shy, but I'm asking you to think, well, maybe you'll step forward to be the chair of the next committee or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So again, challenge yourself, as I guess what I'm saying, so that you can learn and see and observe. And the other side is, when you're in a team that's going well, take a moment to think about it. Why is this team going so well? Oh, it's because Miriam brings treats. She always starts her meetings with snacks that she's made herself. Well, I never thought of that. But why is that making me feel good? You know what I'm saying? When you're in a high-performing team, take a moment to think about it, and then be bold and just copy them. That's okay. We learn from each other. And then think about your passionate vision. The thing that makes you mad. As you exercise this exercise and get ready for the last session, that'll be your chance to inspire us with your nonprofit. All right, my friends, we're at the end of our time. I got to let you go. But next session, we'll get more into this fundraising thing and we'll interview one of your own board members, and they'll tell us about what they do. All right, everybody good?
Yes,
Thumbs up if
thank
you're
you.
good.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
All right, my friends.
Wait. You said next week we're doing what? I'm bringing my own board member?
No, we're going to interview one of your board members from Icy Stars.
Oh,
Someone who's a real board member for Icy Stars
okay.
will be with us next week. All right, guys.
Excuse me, Tom, very quickly. We can ditch our old nonprofit idea and create a new nonprofit if we want to.
Absolutely. It's up to you. Totally.
All right.
Again, any questions in the future, just email me, tom@civiclab.us. All right, my friends. Have a good week.